Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Absolutely thrilled to be here for this one.
And right off the bat, before we even get into the tactical breakdowns we have lined up for you today, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Rugby Obsession.
Yeah, do not wait on that.
Exactly. You really don't want to miss a single update as we continue to bring you in-depth analysis of the greatest school on earth.
The absolute greatest.
So today, our mission is to look at some pretty eye-opening comments from Springboks boss Rassie Erasmus.
Oh, they are fascinating.
Right. These comments completely reframe how we should look at this weekend's massive Six Nations clash.
We are talking England and Italy.
Yes, at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. And we are pulling all of this from a really insightful piece over at Planet Rugby today.
It's just a perfect time to be digging into this because, I mean, if there's one thing this current Six Nations tournament is delivering, it's just thrilling unpredictability.
Oh, for sure.
This is exactly the kind of rugby we all want to watch. You want to tune in on a Saturday and, not have a pre-written script of how the 80 minutes will unfold.
Yeah, the landscape of the international game is shifting right before our eyes.
It really is.
I hear you on the unpredictability, but look, we do have to address the elephant in the room here.
The history.
Exactly. History tells us one very stubborn fact. Italy has never beaten England.
Not once.
0 wins in 32 attempts. You look at that statistic, and it's so easy to just assume this weekend is a foregone conclusion.
Right.
So is Rassie Erasmus just playing mind games here? Or is there authentic tactical merit to his warning that Steve Borthwick's England is officially on notice?
Well, when a coach of Erasmus's analytical caliber speaks, you really have to look past the mind game.
You do.
He is providing a highly calculated assessment of where these two specific squads are at this exact moment. To write it off is just pre-match chatter.
Which people tend to do.
Yeah, they do. But that would be ignoring the data and the structural changes we are actually seeing on the pitch.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand the gravity of what Rassie is pointing out now, we have to rewind a few months to November.
Ah, the famous prediction.
Yes. Back then, Erasmus made a prediction that had a lot of pundits, quite frankly, rolling their eyes.
They thought he was crazy.
He tipped perennial also-rans Italy to finish second or third in this championship.
Which, at the time, with their track record, sounded completely absurd.
But look at the table today. Italy has beaten Scotland. They gave Ireland a mighty fright over in Dublin.
A huge fright.
And going into this fixture, the Azzurris are sitting completely level on points with England.
Which brings us to the core of why Italy is suddenly commanding this level of respect.
Yeah.
To understand this evolution, we have to look at Rassie's high praise for Italy's head coach.
Gonzalo Quesada.
Exactly. Erasmus rates Quesada as one of the best tactical minds in the business right now. What Quesada has done is fundamentally modernize the attacking structures of this Italian side.
How so, exactly?
Well, Rassie points out that Quesada has managed to combine a phenomenally high rugby IQ with the traditional Italian scrum power.
Right, they've always had that.
But now, add incredible discipline and a lethal line-breaking threat to that mix.
We all know the old Azzurri stereotype. I mean, for over 20, maybe 25 years, they were feared in the set piece.
Only in the set piece.
Right, those highly structured, static moments like scrums and lineouts. But once the ball was out in open play, the threat virtually vanished.
They simply didn't have the phase play to string together multi-phase attacks.
But what Rassie is pointing out is that Quesada has completely modernized how they operate in open field.
It is like they spent 20 years bringing a sledgehammer to a fencing match.
That is a great way to put it.
The sledgehammer being that heavy, grueling forward pack. But Quesada has finally taught them how to use a rapier in the open field.
A precision weapon.
Exactly. They aren't just taking the ball static off the scrum half anymore to just crash into the nearest defender. They're utilizing what analysts are calling flow, tempo, and strike runners.
Let's break that down for a second, because strike runners is a term that gets thrown around a lot in rugby circles.
It does.
What does that actually look like on the pitch under Quesada's system?
Think about the angle and the speed of the attacking player receiving the ball. Instead of a forward, just catching a short pass while standing still.
Which is easy to defend.
Very easy to defend.
Yeah.
Quesada has completely re-engineered their attacking pods. You now have players hitting the defensive line at absolute top speed from deep.
And that changes everything.
Totally. When a strike runner hits the line with that kind of momentum, it forces the opposing blitz defense to either hesitate or commit early. It dents the advantage line.
meaning Italy is constantly moving forward, forcing the defense to scramble backward on the next phase.
That is the flow and tempo right there.
And they are backing up that new tactical framework with serious firepower returning to the starting 15.
Huge returning players.
We are talking about key personnel who are tailor-made for this exact system. Just last week, they welcomed back Ange Capuzzo.
An absolute lightning bolt on the counterattack. He injects sheer pace from the back.
But even more crucial for this weekend against England, they are going to have Juan Ignacio Brex alongside Tommaso Menoncello in the midfield.
And that midfield partnership is the engine room of Quesada's new attack.
Explain how those two work together.
Well, Brex acts as the primary distributor. He has the vision to read the English defensive line and pick the right pass under immense pressure.
He's the playmaker.
Exactly. Then you have Menoncello, who operates as that ultimate strike runner we just talked about. He provides the crash ball option, but with the agility to step a defender rather than just running straight into contact.
It is a highly capable pairing.
It tests the structural integrity of any defense in the world.
Mm-hmm.
What's fascinating here is...
Wait, hold that thought for just 1 second. If you are enjoying this deep dive into Six Nations strategy and you want to stay ahead of the curve, make sure to hit subscribe to the Rugby Obsession community right now.
Okay, sorry to cut you off. You were saying what's fascinating.
No problem at all. What's fascinating here is the psychological aspect of this matchup.
The mental game.
Let's pivot and look at England's side of the pitch. The article over at Planet Rugby describes Steve Borthwick's squad as beleaguered.
That is a heavy descriptor.
It is, but it accurately mirrors the reality of their current campaign. England is coming off back-to-back losses. There are highly visible questions swirling around their cohesion and their confidence under pressure.
You can actually see this uncertainty reflected directly in the betting markets.
Oh, absolutely.
Despite Italy's 0-for-32 record against England, the bookies only have England listed as narrow 7-point favorites.
It's a 7-point spread.
That is exactly one converted try. For a fixture that historically would have a massive double-digit handicap favoring England, that number is staggering. It tells you everything you need to know about the perceived fragility of this England side right now.
And the piece brings in a fantastic quote from World Cup winner Will Greenwood that captures the tactical danger here perfectly.
What did he say?
Greenwood says Italy is an outstanding team full of confidence, and they know full well that England is going to be a little jittery, a little nervous.
Greenwood's read on this dynamic is incredibly sharp. He suggests that Italy will deliberately target the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game to ruthlessly expose those nerves.
How does being jittery manifest on the pitch?
It manifests tactically. They make unforced errors. They force offloads that just aren't there. They concede early breakdown penalties because players are overeager or isolated.
And if Italy comes out of the gates flying and England falters early on, Greenwood warns that it will be, and this is his direct quote, dark place for England to dig themselves out.
A dark place indeed. Imagine being an English player walking out onto the pitch at the Stadio Olimpico. The crowd is going to be roaring.
You know the context.
They sense blood in the water. If you drop the first high ball or miss the first touch finder, the pressure compounds exponentially.
The silence on the pitch between teammates grows.
Exactly. Players start trying to force individual heroics instead of trusting the system. And Rassie Erasmus sees an Italian side perfectly equipped to apply that exact type of pressure.
He noted there is a real in-your-face competitiveness about them now.
Yes, his observation was spot on. As Rassie put it, they don't apologize for having line speed.
Let's hover on that phrase for a minute. They don't apologize for having line speed. In the context of modern defensive systems, what makes an unapologetic line speed so difficult to play against?
Well, aggressive line speed is the ultimate indicator of a team's cardiovascular fitness and their mutual trust.
Because everyone has to move together.
Precisely. It means the entire defensive line is rushing up simultaneously to suffocate the opposition's decision-making time. But it is incredibly high risk.
What happens if someone messes up?
If one player shoots up and the man next to him hesitates, you create a dogleg.
Again.
A literal gap in the defensive wall that a clever fly half will exploit instantly. To execute that line speed without apology means every single player implicitly trusts the man inside and outside of him to move at the exact same pace.
It requires absolute, unwavering belief in the defensive system.
And Erasmus noted that this belief makes them exponentially more dangerous. He pointed out that the moment they feel they actually have a chance to win, their execution tightens up rather than falling apart under pressure.
They truly believe in what they are doing.
Building on that, this is where the conversation shifts from analyzing a plucky underdog to evaluating a legitimate top-tier threat. When a team has that much structural belief, the usual psychological advantages held by traditional powerhouses evaporate.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The interviewer actually pressed Rassie on this entire assessment.
You didn't let him off the hook?
No, they flat out asked him, would you be surprised if Italy beats England for the first time in 32 attempts?
His reaction is very telling, especially for a coach who usually chooses his words with surgical precision.
He paused. He took a deliberate beat to think about it, and then he just said, no.
Just no.
You would not be surprised. But then he immediately followed up with an essential caveat.
He practically begged the reporter, please don't make the headline. I won't be surprised if Italy beat England.
Which is an ironically perfect way to ensure that exact quote becomes the headline.
Of course it is. However, his reasoning for wanting to temper that soundbite is what reveals his deep respect for Gonzalo Quesada's squad. It wasn't a slight against Borthwick or England.
That's the key distinction to make here. His lack of surprise isn't just about England's current frailties.
Not at all.
It's about the objective quality of Italy right now. Rassie admitted that even when his own team, the world champion Springboks, go into a match against Italy, they feel they could lose if they aren't at their absolute best.
That is massive praise coming from a back-to-back World Cup winning coach.
Unbelievable praise.
Erasmus pointed out the depth advantage South Africa enjoys. He noted they might be fortunate to have a huge pool of players, meaning if they lose 2 or 3 key guys to injury, they can still survive a grueling test match.
But Italy doesn't always have that luxury.
Right, but he explicitly said that when you strike an Italy team that has all their frontline players available and who step onto the pitch truly believing they can win, you cannot be surprised if they take the victory.
He even admitted he's felt Italy could have beaten the Springboks in the past under those conditions.
So what does this all mean for us watching at home?
When the sharpest tactical mind in the sport is looking at Italy and seeing a legitimate threat capable of toppling traditional giants, how does that reframe the entire Six Nations tournament?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests we are entering a golden era of international rugby. Erasmus spoke directly to this broader landscape.
Yeah.
He said he is loving the unpredictability of this tournament.
And he's right to love it.
Yes, France has had periods of sheer dominance, but you currently have Italy, Ireland, and Scotland all stepping up and defeating opponents they historically weren't favored against.
It's fantastic for the game.
Erasmus said, this is what people want. Unexpectedness, not knowing who's winning, underdogs beating major dogs.
Underdogs beating major dogs. I love that phrasing because it captures the essence of why we watch live sports.
It really does.
It speaks to a level of structural parity that makes every single weekend a must-watch event. We aren't just tuning in to see by how many points the favorite will win.
No, we're tuning in to watch high-level tactical chess matches where the outcome is genuinely in doubt until the final whistle.
That structural parity is vital.
Erasmus concluded that this current Six Nations represents a great standard of rugby. For the global health of the sport, having a fiercely competitive Italian squad that commands the respect of World Cup winning coaches is a massive net positive.
It forces everyone else to level up.
It forces the traditional powerhouses to innovate. It elevates the entire ecosystem of the game, demanding higher standards of coaching, fitness, and execution across the board.
It elevates the tension, the stakes, and the sheer entertainment value.
Absolutely.
And that brings us right back to you, the listener. We have unpacked Quesada's attacking pods, the mechanics of unapologetic line speed, and the heavy warnings from Rassie Erasmus. But now we want to know what you think.
We want to hear from you.
Do you believe Italy can finally break this agonizing 32-game curse against England this weekend? Are we witnessing a permanent changing of the guard in the Six Nations hierarchy? Drop a comment and let us know your predictions.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the shifting tactical sands of European rugby, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over before kickoff.
Let's hear it.
If Italy's newfound belief, their suffocating defensive line speed, and their tactical brilliance under Gonzalo Quesada can earn them the genuine cautious respect of the reigning world champion coach, what does this mean for the traditional Tier 1 rugby hierarchy going forward? Are the days of guaranteed wins in international rugby officially over?
What a question to leave us on. The landscape is shifting, and we are going to be right here to cover every massive hit, brilliant offload, and tactical masterclass along the way. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to stay ahead of the curve, do us one final favor and hit that subscribe button to join the Rugby Obsession community. We are building something special here, and we want you with us for the ride. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.